Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Animal Communication Adventures. My name's Nicole Elizabeth. I'm an animal communicator from Australia.
And my name is Courtney Moffat. I'm an animal communicator from the United States. And boy, oh boy, you guys are in for a treat today. We have the wonderful, the well-respected and well-known animal communicator, Sarah Jane LeBlanc. So yay, we're so happy to have you here, Sarah. Thank you so much for coming.
You're so welcome.
Thanks. What we're going to talk about today is how you all can have some tips and trips on how you all can talk with your own animals. Now, this will just be ways to kind of maybe give you confirmation or kind of just raise your awareness that this is actually happening. Our animals actually do talk to us pretty much all the time, most of the time. We just don't realize it. It just goes whoop right over our head, right? Because we're not paying attention. That's like the biggest thing. So I'm gonna turn it over to Sarah. Now, Sarah, can you please give us like a high level overview of how they can start communicating with their animals?
Okay, so I would say that communicating with your own animals is probably the most difficult area of animal communication. Now, there are some people, and some of you will be listening, and you might be thinking, well, I chat to mine every day. It's like chit, chit, chat, and you know exactly how they're feeling, you know what's going on with them. And if that is your experience, then I absolutely harangue you because it's not most people's experience and it's also not mine either. So, although I've been a professional animal communicator for 20 years and I've been teaching people for nearly 20 years, I still find communicating with my animals the hardest part of my communication work. And I have no shame in that whatsoever. It just is the way that it is for me. This is my journey. This is the bit that's difficult for me. And I think sometimes it's meant to be difficult for me so that I can show other people just like you that you're normal. And it happens to us that have been doing this work for a long, long time. So if you are struggling to communicate with your own animals, know that that's completely normal and it happens to us professional animal communicators too. But I would agree with what Courtney's saying. I think our animals in the main are always available. They're not all, I don't believe that they're always constantly talking to us, but I think they're always available for us to connect with. And I think the big thing is about us. It's us that's the block. We're the ones that's stopping the flow of communication coming in. But I do invite you all to ask yourself this really simple question. Have you ever come home from work or back from a trip and you just walked into either your home or into the paddock or your field of geese or whatever animals you have? You've just come back from somewhere, you've stepped into their kind of physical space or into your home, and you just know that something's not right. You don't know what it is, but you know something isn't right. If that's happened to you, then that's your animals communicating with you. That is them shouting out, Mom, Dad, help, or listen, or there's something really going on here. I need to get your attention. So if you've ever had that feeling and you don't know where it's come from, you don't know what it is, but you just know on every level of your body that something's not right, even if you've taken your animal companion to the vet and the vet's run all the blood work, done all the tests and said, there's nothing here, there's nothing wrong, but you still feel it, that's your animal telling you that the vet's missed something or the wrong tests have been carried out to find out whatever it is that's actually going on with them. So if that's happened to you, then give yourself a big gold star because that is your animal connecting with you and communicating with you. What's happened is you've received communication, but you perhaps haven't had the practice or even the knowledge of how to start unpicking that message and actually deciphering exactly what it means.
I love that. Yeah. Sorry, I just thought I'd interject because that's what I do. But that is like 100%. And one of my examples was going to be like that with my dog. There was an issue with the dog and the vets had a plan, a path. This is what was going down, and I just kept getting it's urgent. There's something wrong. It's not quite right. And I just kept, we have to go now. We have to go now. And so I was so annoying to my husband. He did it. And it turned out after the x-rays that he had bone cancer. So he was pushing out to me something, he knew something wasn't right, but he didn't even know himself what was actually wrong. So sorry, I like to give examples on the way. I don't want to take
I do too, Nicole. I think story is so powerful with this work. There's only, and I've got goosebumps as we're speaking right now. So that's just my sign that this is what we're meant to do. This is what we're meant to talk about. And I actually feel really emotional. Where's that coming from? So thinking about your dog, and I think it's important, certainly in the way that I work, and I know that each of us as animal communicators might work in slightly different ways. If you've trained with different people, they might teach in different ways, and all of that's good and welcome. In my world, I teach my students that we don't ever diagnose what's going on with an animal. That's a vet's job. Our job is to understand the symptoms and the pain and how that's showing up, but also you said about your dog. Now I've lost my train of thought. You said about cancer. Put myself off. You said you found out later it was bone cancer.
Yeah, the vet said it was an ACL, and we were waiting to. Oh my gosh, my puppy.
I've got it back. Thank you, Nicole. Sometimes the way that I teach, I do not expect animals to know what's wrong with them. Some people teach that animals always know what the physical ailment is, what the issue is. I personally and professionally don't believe that, don't teach that, because I think animals are just like people, but at different stages of evolution. You've got people that are really in tune with their body and they can tell what's going on with their body, the same as some animals can. And you've got people that are so disconnected from their body, they haven't got a frigging clue what's going on. And some of our animals are like that too. So I love that you said there, Nicole, that he wasn't able to tell you what it was because he didn't know. And I had a similar story with my girl. Is it helpful for me to share?
Oh yes, please do.
So I'd actually been away teaching. I was thinking it was when I was in New York. I don't think I was away quite that long, but I'd been away for a few days, slightly longer than normal. And I came back, and of course, she was all pleased to see me. She's like, "Hi, Mom," and she's wagging her tail and all that, the usual. But I just knew something wasn't right. I just knew. It's just that just knowing. And I said to my husband and the children, "What's wrong with Lady?" They looked up from the television and said, "Nothing." It's like there's something wrong with Lady. How long has she been like this? And they're like, been like what? I'm like, this, she's not right. So I just lay with her, and it was late at night when I got home. So I lay with her, and she was all settled and fine, but I just had this gnawing feeling that something wasn't right. And then through the night, she was up, she was panting, and she has a heart issue. So I thought, oh my God, it's her heart. So I went down to the emergency vet, took her to the emergency vet, and they checked her heart, and they said that they couldn't find anything wrong with her heart. And by this time, her breathing was regular, and I looked a bit like a fraud, but everything in my body was still telling me that something wasn't right. So this is Lady communicating with me that something isn't right. So our vet's in the next town, and it's beside the beach. So if we're ever there, we always do a beach walk. So the vet said, look, the guy that comes, I think he comes once a month with the heart scanner. He's due in today. And I thought, oh, hallelujah, this was meant to happen today. And I said, can I bring her back? I'll take her for a walk along the beach and I'll bring her back. And can you check her later? And she said, fine. So we went for a walk along the beach. And just to give everybody some context, my whole life, Lady's no longer with us now, but my whole life with Lady, all I wanted to do was have that chit chat. How are you today? I'm fine. How are you? That's all I wanted. And I never got it from her. I never got it from her. But she always showed up in an emergency. So we were walking along the beach, and I stopped at the wall, and I was crying because I thought she was going to die. My worst fear, the usual. So I was crying, I was upset, I was worried, and she's just pottering along, and I just got as calm as I could, because remember, it's like you said, Nicole, about the emotions. When it's our own animals, they can actually stop the flow of communication. So I got as calm and as grounded as I possibly could, and I connected in with her, and I just said, "Can you show me? Tell me what's going on? I'm so worried about your heart. Is this it? Is this our life together finished? Because you have my permission to go always. I just want to plan," because I thought she was going to be going, and she said to me, I had it as a thought. It was like it came in like a thought. The thought was, "I'm not worried about my heart." That was it. I'm not worried about my heart. And I had that thought in my head, and then I said to her, "Well, do you know what's going on? What's wrong?" And she just drew me down to the bottom part of her body, to the kind of lower abdomen area. But like you, Nicole, with the issue that you were having, I didn't know what it was. She didn't know what it was, but that's where she took me to. So when I went back to the vet, when they opened properly and she was booked in for an emergency appointment, I said, "Look, can you get in just to scan the lower body?" And she had bladder stones.
Wow.
So
See,
she was,
that's amazing.
you just never know. They don't always know, but just trust your gut. That's the first thing that I would say to all of you. So if you've got pen and paper, and I recommend that you go grab some if you don't, because we're going to give you lots of juicy things to take away from here. So the first thing is trust your gut. And trust it above the vet, trust it above your family, trust it above all else. Trust your gut, even if the vet is saying, like, no, the vet, fast forward from that experience quite a few years, and the vet told me, 2 different vets told me it was time to put Lady to sleep. And I said no. And I said no because I asked her, and she told me no. Now, I did not want to keep my girl alive if she was in any pain or discomfort. And as a practitioner and as a teacher, it's a subject that I do a lot of deep teaching on, because that's a huge responsibility. We get it wrong and we keep them here unnecessarily in pain, or we send them over to the other side before they're ready to go and they haven't completed whatever they're here to complete. So it's a huge responsibility. And I said to her, "Is this it?" I've been given her permission for like 2 years before she finally left, that she could go. She did not have to hang around for me, because many of our animals hang around for us. So there's I know it's slightly aside from the topic, but that's another piece for you to write down as well. If you believe that your animal is towards the end of their life, give them permission to leave. So many of them stay, and stay for much longer than they need to for us. And although it's sad and it's heartbreaking, I believe it's the most precious gift we can give our animals, is to allow them to be released from their physical body at the earliest opportunity that they can take. So I'd been doing that for, as I say, nearly 2 years. And she said to me, "You need to find another way." And again, it came through like a thought. "You need to find another way." And I'm like, I don't know what else to do for you. Can you tell me? And she didn't have, I was wanting her to say, "Oh, I need this and this and this, and it will all be ticked and ta-da, sorted." Didn't work like that. And she just said, "You need to find a different way." It's like, oh my Lord. So I changed vet, and lo and behold, we found a different way. Because the vets thought I was holding on to her because I didn't want to let her go. Because I remember one of them, changed his tone of voice and was all soft and said, "Now there comes a time." I was like, "You don't need to give me any of that. I'm not going to keep her here a day longer than she needs to be." I said, "I just do not believe that she's ready to go, despite the physical condition." So we found a different way. And so my experience is that when Lady needed to communicate something to me, and when my animals need to communicate something to me that's important to them, they will find a way. But my experience, as much as I wanted it, my experience isn't that, "Good morning, how are you? I'm fine. What do you fancy doing today?" That's not how it rolls in my house. Might be like that for other people or other professionals. And great, that's not my experience. So I hope that's helpful in terms of seeing the different ways that Nicole Did you say it was your dog?
Yes, my dog, my Amstaff, that I actually did have to put down about a month ago because it was funny. What you said totally lines up because I asked him through the whole process. I'll put you down. I don't want you to suffer. And then it was, this is when it is. Like this, we knew. And I think Courtney may have a few questions around that, but yeah, it was my dog Asher. So there you go, lines up perfectly. Oh, you speak truth, woman.
But it's just that way, isn't it? You know, we both got that clear communication when they needed us to really hear them. And it's not, and again, people might disagree with my view, and that's absolutely okay. Your view is welcome. And if it's different from mine, that's fine. I don't think anything's absolutely right or wrong. There's just our own experience of it and our own beliefs around it. But for me, my need, and it was a need because, oh my God, did I practice at trying to have that communication with Lady every day? I now think that that was just me and my ego. That was about me. That was about me wanting, needing, desiring, having to have this chit chat. But actually, it's not what she wanted, not what she needed. And by God, did she make me work hard for the tiny slithers of information that I got? But that's clearly how it was meant to rock and roll for us, and I'm accepting of that now for sure. But some of the things that I practice, and I'll share them with you because I know they work. Why do I know they work? Because I use my students, and students have great success, but I didn't have great success with my girl. So I'll share with you one of the things I teach my students. They do it really well. I just didn't, but here we go. So you could simply ask your animal friend to always ask their permission. I think that's just respectful to ask their permission if they want to be a teacher for you. And I do realise that in my difficulties with Lady and our communication, that she was being a teacher for me. I just didn't get it. I was a very slow learner. So ask their permission to be a teacher for you. And if they're happy to do that, and the thing is, if they're not, you will know because you'll really feel it. So if you get what I call a non-response, you're in. That's a yes, because if it's a no, you would absolutely know it was a no. And then maybe just ask them to do something. So I used to say to Lady things like, if you can hear me, could you just walk over to that bush over there? Or if we're out walking, or if we're in the house, if you hear me, could you just cock up your right ear? And she wouldn't do any of it. She just wouldn't do any of it. It was like, she was like, "Two's up to you, Mum. I'm not. Why would I do that? Like, why would I do that?" And actually, as I'm saying this, it's like, well, why would she? She's like a performing seal or something. But my students had great success with that. One of my students, who was quite, she wanted to believe, but she had a really strong left brain. She was a dog behaviorist, so she very much came from that kind of scientific angle. And she had her dog. If anybody's read my book, it's Barney, who's the in there as my greatest teacher. So it was Barney, and she said, "If you can hear me, could you get up?" And I can't remember all the detail, but it was really intricate. "Could you get up, walk over to the fireplace, burl around, and put your nose on the edge of the mantle?" And Barney got up, toddled over to the fireplace, burrowed around, and popped his nose on the mantle. Like, seriously, I'm teaching people how to do this. And my girl's just saying, "Really? I am not wasting my time with that." So I hope that's helpful to share these experiences so that you know that you're not alone if your animal companion takes the same route as Lady did, but also know that that's a method that works for many of my students, just simply asking them if they would do something just to give you the reassurance that they are actually hearing you. So that's one strategy that you can use. I have another strategy if it's helpful. I don't teach this on my programs because I only teach pure animal communication, which is us speaking directly with the animal. That's what I teach. That's what I believe in. But because I was having such difficulty with Lady, and I really, especially she got older, and I really needed can you hear that? I needed to know how she was, how her body was, if I was doing everything right, could I do something better for her? The things that we all want to do for our animals. So I found a different way to get that information, and it's what I call indirect animal communication. So direct animal communication is us speaking directly to our animals and receiving that information directly back from them. Indirect animal communication is where you go via a different source to get the information. So depends on your skill, on your knowledge and experience of working with other beings. So I'm trained as a shamanic practitioner. So I did my shamanic practitioner training nearly 10 years ago. And so I'm really used to journeying with power animals and going to the great tree and doing that kind of work. But you could also do this in a meditation. So I just journeyed to the great tree, and I would go up to the upper, what we call the upper world. And in the upper world, you've kind of got that overview, that high connection to higher self, higher consciousness, and there's potentiality there to see into the future as well. So that's where I would go, and I would ask my guides to help me understand what was going on with Lady, to hear the information that I needed to hear so that I could best support Lady. And that was how I was able to do what I would call the kind of day-to-day information gathering. But when she really needed me, she just came straight to me. So the day that she was put to sleep, I woke at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I just knew. I was lying in my bed. By that time, she was unable to get up the stairs. I used to carry her up and down, but she was more comfortable here in this room, actually. So I was lying up in my bed, and I just knew everything in my body said, today's the day. Today is the day. And I came down here to my treatment room, and I lay with her. And we just had that communication, checking in. Is this what you want? I was taking her for another abdomen scan that day, a bladder scan. I was taking her in later that day, and I was running through the options. Would you want us to operate? You know, if we find anything. And she just kept closing her eyes because I asked for a sign, and she kept closing her eyes. And I'm saying, that's not enough. That's not enough. It's not solid enough, you know, because I was saying to her, you know, just let me know. And she just kept closing her eyes. But it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. She was elderly now, and she was tired. I was like, no, it needs to be much more solid than that. So I said to her, hold my gaze for 5 whole seconds, and then close your eyes if you're ready to go in the event that they find anything. And she held my gaze for 5 seconds. She closed her eyes, and then I realized later that the closing of the eyes was part of the answer, because she wanted to close her eyes and go to sleep. So, you know, in the moment, I didn't quite make that connection. So that's what happened. And we had an absolute ball, because I said to her, well, because we found a massive tumor, and it was actually probably inoperable. It was so huge, but she was an old lady by this time, and she'd already told me what she wanted. But she also wanted a party before she left, and we went back to our old town, and we gathered all the people up. She got her favourite food. I let her run wild the way that I'd stopped doing because of her legs, and we threw frisbees, and she had a party. And then we had a beautiful walk, just her and I, in the morning the next day, because I took her home, kept her overnight, and she left us the following day after some really nice one-to-one time, just the two of us. So just be open. Just be open to the idea or the concept of being able to receive, because I believe, and I'm sure Nicole and Courtney do as well, I believe that all of you that are listening to this, you're here for a reason. It's not an accident that you've rocked up to listen to this either live or on the replay. So if you're here, it's because you're meant to be hearing this message. And I believe, and I'm sure Nicole and Courtney believe, that you're already connecting with your animal friends. You just maybe don't realize it.
Yep. Absolutely. Very well said. What is there any kind of tips you can give the people if their animal is at the end of life and they have to make that decision? And it's just human nature. A lot of people are like, I think I'm making the right decision, but I don't know, and they just feel very torn. Is there any advice you can give them for that?
Absolutely. And I give you this advice for transition, for behavioral work, for physical health conditions. If you're really worried about your animal companion, go get somebody else to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Let somebody else do it. We're too emotionally involved. And if we're professional practitioners like we are, then we have the experience and the knowledge and the ability to work through our own stuff, to be present, because that's part of becoming a professional practitioner. But if you're not at that level, and even if you're a really, really good animal communicator, unless you do have that ability to hear them chit-chatting all the time, and if you do, great, do the work yourself. But if that's not your experience, I would always recommend that you get somebody else to do it, and get somebody that knows how to ask the right questions. Because the amount of people that will just say, you know, are you ready to go? Well, I don't know about all of you, but there's been times in my life where I'm like, hey, can I get a sharp exit out of here, please? So we really need, you really want to be working with somebody that knows how to ask the questions that need to be asked to get the right answers. And unless you've got that training and experience behind you, I would always recommend that you have somebody else work with your animals, always. And
Yeah.
if you are somebody that has the chit chat, then you are already connected. So what I would recommend that you do is just go cry if you need to cry. Like, that's our normal human emotion. There's nothing wrong with that, but you don't want to bring that energy to the communication with your companion. That's like
Right.
going to the doctors and you're waiting for results, and the doctor's at the other side of the desk. I'm so sorry. So sorry. Got the results for it today, and you're sitting there like, what? And then they say you've got cancer. Like, nobody wants that to be happening when you're speaking to a doctor, a therapist. You need somebody that's strong and grounded and can hold that space for you to be wherever you are in that moment in time. So go do your crying, rage, frustration, anger, whatever it is that's going on with you. Go discharge that emotion as much as you can, and then come back and have that conversation with your companion. Because again, I don't know exactly what Courtney and Nicole's experience is, but in my experience working with students and teaching students is that when that relationship kind of breaks down, or they're not getting the information that they need, it's because they are so emotionally charged.
Yes.
And the animal's just like, I'm out of here. I'm done. Like, whoa, way too much. I've got enough going on here without all of that. So you need to find what way works best for you to discharge that before coming back. That would be, so there's kind of two answers in there. If you don't have that chit chat, regular connection with your animal companion, go get somebody else that's got the training and the experience to do the work. If you do have that relationship and connection with your animal companion, just make sure you discharge the emotion first. Keep the channel open and clear.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And if we're, end of life, any kind of health issues, if your pet is lost and you need it tracked, anything that's going to be very emotional, I 100% agree with you. Our emotions block our intuition. Yeah,
absolutely.
All right. And then I guess my last question would be, so as I stated whenever we first started this video, if people, one way to kind of help them connect to their animals is try to clear their mind. Can you kind of explain how they could kind of ground themselves so that they can, get the information and sort of build up their confidence? Just kind of, give them the push in the right direction so that they can be like, oh, this is what it feels like, or this is how it is, and I can do it.
Wow. So in about a minute and a half, I'll sum up. I did a training event that you guys were at, 5 full days. 5 days. I'll try and cram it into 1 minute. I did not intend to plug any of my programs. That's not what I came here for, but I have got something that I've got a 5 class, which came from a 5-day event, which was called the Beginner's Bible, which actually leads people right through the grounding, finding out what their animal communication superpower is, and then takes them through a connection with their own animal companion. So I do have, and it's an off-the-shelf program if anybody's interested. But in a nutshell, grounding is the most important thing. Grounding, absolutely. And I have my own way of doing that, where I bring the universal light down and I work with the Mother Earth energy. Some people just wrap roots around their ankles and earth in. Personally, I don't feel that's quite enough, because even the strongest of trees with the most deepest, thickest, strongest roots can still be blown over by the wind. So I like to have that kind of dual aspect of being grounded down into the earth, but also being connected universally as well. So that's how I do it. But one of my coaches on my team, she's amazing, and she always grounds with trees. So the students love when she does a grounding exercise, because it's something totally different. And I've got another coach that grounds with crystals. So it's just playing with all these different ways. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to ground. There's only your way. Play, experiment, find what is right for you for grounding. But what you want to do is get to that place where you're feeling plugged in. And sometimes just doing some really nice deep breath work can do that. If you listen to the same piece of music every time you relax, I promise you, when you walk into your room and that music's playing, wham, you're going to be there. You're going to be ready. So just play with these different ways. If you're not great at meditation, I'm not. I'm probably the world's worst meditator. I found a million different ways to switch off the busy mind and get grounded without meditation. So maybe even a walk in nature, just being really aware of your feet connecting with the earth, and imagining the earth is really, pulling you into that strong earth energy, smelling the surroundings, looking at the surroundings, using all your senses. So grounding is really, really important. So it's just about finding your best way to do that. And then you want to connect next. So I have a connection technique that I teach called soul to soul connection. So you just want to find whatever way is best and right for you to make that connection. And I want to share something with you because I hope it's helpful. I like to teach really simple step-by-step processes because they work. It's like holding your hand, like you ground, then you connect, you use this technique, and then you do this and you use these steps. But here's the thing. The amount of students that have said to me, oh, Sarah Jane, I was only halfway through the process and the dog was just there talking to me. And it's like, yeah, that's okay. So I'm just sharing that with all of you too. I'll teach you a kind of overview of the steps, but when you're grounded and connected, especially if the animal knows that you're going to be talking to them, because they will, because you've been thinking about them and that thought is out there, they will sometimes just show up and they will like, hi. And you're like, oh, I haven't even prepared my room yet, never mind myself. And they're just there. So that's normal too. So you want to ground and then find your way to connect. Just open up your heart. Just open up your heart and just send that love from your heart to theirs. And then you just ask permission. I'm really, really big on asking permission. Ask permission to communicate with them. Ask permission to go to deep or sensitive areas. You don't want to just dive in and go, right, tell me about your cancer. It's like, no, don't do that. We ask permission. Is it okay if we talk about how your body feels right now? Mm-hmm. And can you see how much more respectful that is? So just always treat it like a conversation with a friend. That's my thing. When you treat it like a conversation with a friend, it will really stop you getting stuck. And it will also help you get deeper responses instead of just surface information. Because sometimes we're just so darn excited and glad to have something to write down that we can then move on to the next question, where actually there would have, if you've been speaking to a friend, there would have been a little bit more. Your friend says, oh, I hate my job. You're not just going to go, all right, and how's your brother? You're going to go, you hate your job. Well, what's going on at work? Whereas when we do animal communication, something really weird happens to our brains and we stop having that conversational flow. And we're like, all right, you hate that, right? Okay, you hate that. Right, next question. And then you just have that compulsion just to get the information and get it written down. So, got something I can hand back to the guardian. but just pause and think, how would I deal with this if this was my best friend and we were having a coffee or a glass of wine? What would my next question be? And that's what I would recommend that you always do. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Did I answer your question, Courtney? I think I maybe went off on a thing.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see, Nicole, was there anything else you wanted to ask her? Because I know we probably want to wrap up soon.
Well, I was going to say I love that, and for me, like talking to your best friend, because often they are the person's best friend, the guardian's best friend, and they just want to know more. What I was going to say, I was just going to say as well, if people are getting a little bit scared or just, I don't know if I can do this, when they're around their animal, then remove yourself from the situation. Go, like you said, go for a walk and it'll calm you down. You'll be able to receive the information. I personally, I'm a bad meditator as well. I mop the floor. Like I get and mop the floor and then my body's distracted and then the information just seems to come and I'm just like, if I get stuck, it's great. Two things, two birds, one stone.
I love that. And you'll have great gleaming floors. I hate housework, so I would need to find something different. But for me, it's just going outside in nature or going for a swim. I find that when I swim, it's just like, it just comes through because we were in that different space. But I love that suggestion, Nicole. Take yourself away, remove. It's like what we were saying earlier about discharging the emotion around transition. You want to discharge the emotion, which includes your own fear.
Yes.
Your own fear, your own worry, your own anxiety about whether you can do this. That's an emotional charge. So although it's a different context from what we were talking about earlier, the strategy is the same. You want to move that emotional charge and discharge it. So when you're scared, I hope this is helpful, and I appreciate that we're over time. But when you're feeling scared or worried, my biggest thing to you as a strategy for getting out of that is to accept that the reason you feel so scared and you feel so worried about getting it right and you feel anxious that you're not going to be able to do it or you're going to let the animal down if it's your own animal companion, or you're going to let the person down if it's somebody else's animal, if all that is going on for you and that's feeling really huge, then that's just simply a measure of how much you care about this work. That's all it is. That's all it is. If you didn't care, you wouldn't be worried. You wouldn't have any anxiety. So just accept and honor and celebrate the fact that you're really having a brown trouser moment because this matters so much to you. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. The next thing to then think about is, if you're not trusting yourself to be able to do this work, what can sometimes happen is that if you do that often enough, don't trust myself, I don't believe I can do this, then whether you mean to or not, I believe that there's an inadvertent message that you're sending to the animals, which is that you don't trust them.
I agree.
So you're not trusting yourself. Flip that around and say, okay, I don't trust myself right now, but I trust the animals, because remember what Courtney said right at the beginning, and Nicole and I are in absolute agreement. They're always there, ready to speak to us. So we might not be able to trust ourselves, but we can perhaps step into trusting the animals. And
Absolutely.
That's if you're feeling worried.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I guess something too I could tell the viewers, if they're still not sure, and it's a little bit of my life, personal life, too much information, I'm sure, but my husband, when I met him all those years ago, was not into animals, this whole spiritual woo-woo stuff, rubbish, and fast forward all these years, he came into my house one day and went, Clara just spoke to me. Clara is a duck. And I'm like, oh yeah, what did she say? Just me being cheeky, And he said, she asked me why she wasn't allowed inside. And I went, oh my God, that is so Clara, because she used to come inside. And when we moved house, she had to stay outside. She just used the dog door and walk in at our old house. She was no stopping her. We don't have a dog door here, so she can't come inside. And he was like, Clara's talking to me. And
Wow.
so from a man who didn't even believe any of it to now he's acknowledging it. And often he'll say to me, I'm sure this animal's feeling like this. And he's starting to trust. Yeah. So like if you think you can't do it, you can, because he thought this was bullshit. Sorry, people, for swearing, but he honestly thought it was. And now he's like, oh yeah, no. And he's like, it's kind of like, I can tap into their emotions.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh, big hands up to your husband. That's incredible. That's really impressive. And I'm sure that you had a massive role to play there, Nicole, just in normalizing that this is normal. When we open, this is normal. People think what we do is abnormal, but it's not. What we do is absolutely normal. What's abnormal is shutting our emotions down, building our walls to keep ourselves safe, protecting us. And that also blocks out the animal communication. That's what's actually abnormal. But because that's how most of us operate, myself included until I saw the light, that feels the norm. I love that. I love that story. And I know we're over and I should just put a zip on, but I can't help myself. I've got something very is it okay? So
go.
If you're watching this and you've heard Nicole's story, and like me, you're like, wow, I wish that was my husband, because he doesn't believe in this, and my husband's so closed off, I can't imagine. I wish that was him. Just know that my husband, who loves me dearly, supports me massively. I couldn't go and travel and teach all over the world if he wasn't here to look after the animals and the children. So he absolutely is 100% support to me. Does he get this stuff? No. 20 years on, still doesn't get it, not interested, thinks it's all about cuckoo, even though I've had a book deal, I've taught all over the world. He's like, all right, whatever. So he does come to me if there's a situation. He might say, "Can you check Harry's okay?" Or that thing that's going on in the field. We were out on a walk and there's a thing going on. It's like, "Are you able to help?" So he'll come in with that. But I'm just sharing that with everybody else that's wishing and jealous of Nicole and her husband's experience. That if your other significant other or your family members or even your friends, if they don't get it, just don't speak to them about it. If they're your champions and they love you and they support you, whatever you do, even though they don't get it, sure, speak to them and lean into them, but not the people that don't get it, don't support you with it, think it's woo-woo, just don't talk to them about it. When you're starting out, that's not the energy that you want to be around. So lean into people like us, groups like we have, these kind of lives where you can be surrounded by the people that absolutely are your tribe. And then the more you build your confidence, then other people in your family or friend circles that don't get it, think it's a bit weird, that will start to slide off like Teflon. But until you get there, just keep hanging out with people like us.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yes, definitely. It really does help to have that support system, to be around the like-minded people who do believe this stuff, and totally agree to just try to, not distance yourself from like your family, of course, but maybe just, don't if they are like negative about it or anything like that, then maybe just don't bring it up in front of them, not at least until you get your confidence up and you get a little bit more experience. Totally agree. I'm in the same boat as you guys too. My husband, he doesn't get it either, so it's just I think it's
that's so good. That's so good to know, because most people's husbands have some kind of understanding, or they get it on some level. Mine's just like not even interested. Not even interested. Like, talking animals, that's the weirdest thing ever. Like when we first got together, and I already had a book out at that point. My book was already published, and he's like, "Really? Oh my God, that's the weirdest thing ever." He's still stuck with me. So, but yeah, I just think it's so important when you're building your confidence and you're finding your own way with this. Sometimes we can get so excited, can't we, that we want to tell the whole world that it's possible to talk to animals, but you kind of end up like the insurance agent at a party. You end up in the corner by yourself with no one talking to you. So just share it with those that support you. Even if they don't get it, that's fine. But what you said, Courtney, about it's not about distancing yourself from your family or your friends. It's just choosing. Just choosing not to share your
Right.
excitement because they, even if they don't mean to, if you're excited about something you've done in a case study practice and you've got really good feedback. So we have live calls, practice calls for the students. And we've got new students on the program just now, and they all did amazing. I was so proud of them, like brand new to animal communication, and they were getting really key information on the practice. So you can imagine that they would want to go and tell the world. But if that's how good you're feeling and you know your significant other or your best friend just thinks it's weird, they're just going to be like a big pin popping your
Yes.
bubble. Like, you don't want that when you start. So it's not about distancing yourself from them. You're absolutely right, Courtney. It's just choosing who you share that information with. Share it with the people that are going to go, oh my God, you got what? Oh, I can't believe that. It's so exciting. That's who you want to talk to.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, geez, Sarah, this was like a great talk. Thank you so much for coming. We really, really appreciate it. And I'm sure everyone watching this is definitely going to gain some wonderful insight and, realize that, oh, wow, I am doing this. I just need to start paying attention and, and kind of go on from there. For anyone who would like to dive in deeper with us, all three of us offer classes. Sarah has a wonderful, wonderful in-depth course, lots of courses, right, Sarah?
Yeah, I've got three, depending what level you're at or where you want to get to. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a really, really good in-depth course that she has a great support system. Like she said, you're going to be, around like her coaches and other students, and so it's just a great support system and place to be where you can share your experiences and questions and things like that. So Nicole will post Sarah Jane's website if you want to go check it out and see what she's all about and what her courses are about. I think
And I just put a disclaimer in right now to say my website's really, really old and I'm building a new one in the background. So it's got really, it's just overcrowded and it's not the best, but go check it out and you can certainly have a look and you'll be able to contact me from it, which is the main thing if you want to reach out. And we can always have a chat, always have a chat,
Right.
always to do that.
And your teaching's amazing too. I just want to add that little disclaimer in.
Oh,
yeah. Nicole and I, we did a confidence building workshop. Was it a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. It was really good, guys. Yeah,
definitely recommend it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Sarah, again. And I, hopefully you'll hear from some people from this, and we'll be sending some people your way. Nicole, is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, I just wanted to say thank you to Sarah for giving up your time and speaking to everyone. Like Courtney said, we absolutely appreciate it, and we love listening to you. We could listen to you all day.
And I could talk all day too.
We'll set that up. Because
we'll need to do another 6 of these at least.
That's it, up, down. That's a contract. Write that down, Courtney.
More than happy to come back. More than happy to come back. I just love teaching. I love teaching, and I just get sad sometimes when I hear some people's poor experience of having paid money for programs and they've been let down or they've just not had the support that they've needed. Right. And it just really saddens me. So I just love teaching. And even if you never get in touch with me and you never join any of my programs, you've got something from tonight, and I've given it to you from my heart, as has Nicole and Courtney. And we just hope that helps you help the animals, because that's what we're here for.
Amen to that. Absolutely. So thanks again. I might actually end the broadcast. We can have a little chat after, but thank you also to everyone watching live and on the recording. But yeah, so thank you everyone, and I guess we'll see you all soon.
Okay.
Bye for now.